With the Abrahamic covenant. You keeping up with me so far? Yeah? Now, I haven't pointed to it too much, but we have got the 9 steps of the covenant in here. There is, I'm just going to look at Genesis chapter 22. Now, which is the testing of Abraham. Genesis 22 begins with verse 1. Sometime after these events, God put Abraham to the test. Now, the word test in Hebrew does not mean the same as it does in English. When we have a test, it's because we've been doing our Bible study. We've been reading the book of wisdom every single day, which is what I opened up on. And then we go into a classroom after 4 weeks and we answer questions on the study that we've done. Is that right? Is that the test that you would expect? Yes? So you're tested on knowledge that you already had. Yes? That's what we understand by a test, yeah? In the Hebrew understanding of the word test, it is to learn something new. So when it says God put Abraham to the test, it's saying God is teaching Abraham something new. And if you ever feel, or if anyone ever says to you, oh, God is putting you to the test, it basically means that God is teaching you something. Okay? He's teaching you something. So, God is teaching Abraham something new, and if He's teaching Abraham something new, He's teaching us something new. Alright, so are you ready to be taught something tonight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. I would hope that you'd already been taught a few things, but we'll soon find out. So God called to him, Abraham. Ready, he replied. Now look at the difference between Abraham's response here and Abraham's response on previous occasions. Okay, the initial fervour in Genesis 12, where Abraham left with all of his family and his possessions, and then after that, every time God appeared, Abraham would question and ask him and question. But on this occasion, Abraham says, ready. Oh, by the way, they've had Isaac. They've had the baby. Then God said, take your son Isaac, your only son whom you love. John 3:16. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. Okay, look at the two parallels. This is Abraham's only begotten Son, whom he loves. Go to the land of Moriah. Moriah is a mountain range where Jerusalem is, but it wasn't then. There you shall offer him up as a holocaust on a height that I will point out to you. Early the next morning, Abraham saddled his donkey, took with him his son Isaac, and 2 of his servants, 2 witnesses, 2 disciples, 2 servants. Remember in John 15, Jesus says, I no longer call you slaves, I call you friends. Well, here at this point, we are slaves. Jesus has not yet redeemed them. Took 2 of his servants, and with the wood he had cut for the holocaust, he set out for the place of which God had told him. On the which day? Third day. Third days are very fascinating in the Bible, aren't they? Because on the 3rd day Jesus rose from the dead. On the 3rd day, we'll come back to that in half an hour. 10 minutes. Abraham got sight of the place from afar. And I've put a note in my scriptures of Luke 23:49, because he says to his servants, both of you stay here with the donkey. So the disciples remain at a distance. And in Luke 23:49, when Jesus is crucified, it says, his disciples stood at a distance. There's a foreshadowing here of the crucifixion. We will worship and then come back to you. Thereupon Abraham took the wood for the Holocaust and laid it on his son's shoulders. So Isaac had to carry the cross from here up to Mount Moriah, up to the place of the Holocaust. While Abraham himself carried the fire and the knife. Now the knife is an interesting one to pause on, because the Hebrew word for knife, by the way, Hebrew is a very pictorial language and a very limited language. The Hebrew word for knife means something to eat with. Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. We couldn't eat his flesh until he'd been crucified for us. So on the cross he died, and he gives us his flesh for the life of the world. Something to eat with. As the two walked on together, Isaac spoke to his father, Abraham. Father, he said. Yes, son, he replied. Isaac continued, here are the fire and the wood. The Hebrew word for wood can be translated as carpenter. Here is the fire and here is the carpenter. But where is the sheep for the Holocaust? Son, Abraham answered, God himself, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, will provide the sheep for the Holocaust. Look at the word, God himself. God himself. He is going to be the sheep. God himself is going to be the sheep. It's not that he's going to provide, it's more. He is going to be it. Yes? Then the two continued going forward. You could almost say going forward on their faith journey. Together. Father, Son, Abraham, Isaac. And who is in Isaac at this point? Who is Isaac's seed? Jacob. So you've got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob walking together. Because Jacob is in Isaac, even though he hasn't been conceived. It's his seed. Just as when Adam fell, we were all in Adam because we are Adam's seed by nature. Yes? Okay, maybe not. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied up his son Isaac and put him on top of the wood. On the altar. On top of the wood. You've seen the Passion of the Christ, haven't you? Where Jesus is placed on top of the wood. And then nailed onto the wood. And he's tied before he's nailed. Then he reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the Lord's messenger called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Yes, Lord, he answered. Do not lay your hand on the boy, said the messenger. Do not do the least thing to him. I know now how devoted you are to God, since you did not withhold from me your own beloved son. Now remember the covenant exchange, the exchange of gifts. We give the best we've got, and it enables God to give us the best he's got.